Good afternoon and welcome to the show. My name is Lauren Britz. I'm executive coach and international leadership facilitator and host to the Lunchtime series happening every day at 12 on epizradio.com. This will also be a brand new segment called Lunchtime Stories, featuring business entrepreneurs, interesting topics and conversations across the globe in candid conversations with my cousin, who happens to be featuring today, who's not only a highly successful business, she has this highly successful business in Fort Lauderdale, in Florida, the US, but also creative director and commercial photographer. Welcome to the show today, Lauren Britz. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, Kev. Thank you so much. It's really amazing to connect with you and just talk to you today about what we're doing over here.
Yeah, so I know that you, last week when we spoke, you were talking about hurricanes and stuff. How's that going? Because I know that's kind of, I don't even know what hurricanes living with that, yeah.
Wonderful things to consider when you're running a business in the South Florida or in the South here in America. Everything's looking good now. Unfortunately, fortunately, it didn't come our way here down in South Florida.
Fantastic.
It did end up going into the Gulf, both of them, it seems, and there were two coming our way. And they did hit Louisiana, who did suffer quite a bit with a Category 4.
Shame.
So yeah, they're doing okay. They need to build up a little bit again, but we seem to get missed quite a bit by the hurricanes. But it is something that we have to think about a lot, especially as a photographer working outdoors, working with clients, etc. It does affect business for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, you know, for those who don't know, and I'm sure many don't, that we're actually cousins. And you actually grew up in South Africa. You grew up here until the age of 13 or something like that, right? You then went from that. No, I'm talking nonsense. Give us your story and tell us that journey, because I know that you studied and you did a whole bunch here, but then you went over and you ended up having this amazing photography business. Give us a bit of that journey. I'd love to share that with everyone.
Right, so it was a really amazing journey. It had highs, it had lows. I actually grew up in South Africa till I was 18. I graduated high school. Like many South Africans, I went overseas, started looking around, seeing what's going on there. I came back, I studied photography at a wonderful college in Pretoria, where I'm from. And I also doubled that up with a UNISA degree in media studies. So I finished my honors degree, finished my photography degree, and set out to see what I was going to do with my life. Like a lot of young people at that point, I think I was 21 at that point. I studied, but I wasn't really quite sure what I was going to do. Fast forward a couple of years, when I was 25, I decided, you know what? Let's go check out the USA. It was the one part of the world I'd never really been. And for some reason, I was just very, very curious. I only planned to stay for 6 months. Well, 14 years later, we're still here. And, it wasn't part of the plan, but it turned out to be an amazing plan for me. So I quickly saw a niche here available in Florida. I did a whole bunch of stuff for a couple of years. So I had to really work it, get to know a new culture, get to know a new environment. But I took my photography skills, entered the market, and I just went with it. I started growing it. I did do a lot of other things in the meantime. And when the time was right, I just took it and I went with it all the way. So that's what we're doing now. We've had our beautiful, wonderful, functioning photography business for up and running now permanently for about 4 years, but about 8 to 10 years in the making.
Yeah, I think that, and that's the key element to any entrepreneur and any sort of business owner out there. They know that it's the pre-work that really is necessary. But just to touch on the business a little bit, you specialized in documentary photography, and then moved into the sort of commercial market. What are the major differences? And I know you also studied, taught a lot of photography. Tell us a bit of those differences and why the change. What was the big change for you?
When I was in South Africa, I've always grown up loving South Africa. I've always been very, very interested in everything South African. I identify as a South African 100%. People ask me all the time if I'm European, and I'm like, I guess so, but no, I'm South African. So that's challenged quite a bit, which becomes interesting. But documentary photography was something I took to Africa. I spent some time in Ethiopia with amazing people, documenting Ethiopian wolves and different cultures and things that were going on there. And I've touched on a few other African countries, Uganda, Eritrea, a little bit of Somalia and Kenya, etc., Zimbabwe, the usuals down south. But it was very different. Documentary photography in South Africa itself, I worked as a sort of a journalist that I worked for non-mainstream media outlets. So I had the luxury of just learning an incredible amount with regards to documentary photography. When I came here, obviously documentary photography was something that I kind of put to the side and kind of ventured off into commercial work. It really is quite different in many ways, but in some ways really, really very similar. Documentary work, obviously you're documenting things that are happening in front of you that you really don't have much control over. You sort of just control where you are and how you move and what story you want to get and what angle you want to get. And even as a documentary photographer, I started going over from documenting very difficult things to documenting more hopeful, happy moments. So I wanted to really move, not just as photographer into a different realm, but my own humanity into a different realm. Instead of going out to try to save the world, so to speak, I wanted to go out and start inspiring the world. And I found photography an amazing means to do that. Moving into the commercial sector, now I use these tools to inspire business people. I inspire entrepreneurs. I use these tools to create for basically any image that needs creating for any business, entrepreneur, a product or service that will serve you in actually putting it out there in the markets in the best way possible, in the most authentic way possible. So there was quite a big shift, actually, from a technical perspective, but very much it was a shift on the difference I wanted to make on the earth.
And so, is this something you sort of had since you were younger, as just being that creative? Do you think that's part of why this is so successful and why it's starting to really make why it's become so successful is the fact that you have that passion? Is it something that you've cultivated all your life, or is it just something that you kind of did on the side? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs often go, they see someone doing photography or doing coaching, for example, and they kind of have the impression it's like, oh, you have touched the life, everything seems so easy, and,
right.
and as a business owner and someone who's been doing this for some time now, there is nothing easy about it. There has to be some kind of passion linked to it, because it's hard. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, I would say, to answer the first part of your question, I think my passion was cultivated very much by growing up in South Africa. My specific kind of passion, the way that I work with people, my own unique creativity has 100% been driven by growing up in just an unbelievable culture with such cultural diversity that it's really difficult to explain South African culture to people in a word and a sentence.
Yes.
I mean, you can tell them you're the Rainbow Nation and they don't quite get it. And there's amazing cultures all over the world. But in South Africa, the way I grew up, I was sort of on the farm and then in the city, and I had entrepreneurial parents. It was just, I was always outdoors. If I wasn't building something, I was chasing the cows, or I was always creating, always, and also I was creating with youngsters and people during a very crazy time, apartheid. We lived in apartheid, which ended when I was about 14 years old. And also a very interesting time. I was creating with people then without even speaking the same language. So what developed was this ability to read pretty much my environment without speaking certain languages or the same language or not even speaking at all. That has become the backbone, the intuitive backbone of my process here. And as we move forward, no, it's not easy. I don't want to go out and I don't want people to just think, oh, well, it's too hard, we can't do it. It's anything is possible. Once you have that passion in, you've identified it, you will do whatever it takes to make it happen. There's been many roadblocks, lots of tears, lots of wins that we have celebrated to the moon and back. And we just take it as it comes. We take the wins, we take the losses as wonderful ways to see how to do new things. And we keep our integrity about it. I find that if you have integrity in your business, no matter what is going on in the world, you do 10% and the universe will do the rest for you. But it does take consistent work, discipline, and just continuously refining. Absolutely.
Yeah, you've mentioned a few points now that really, stand out for me. And I always, if someone asks me, what's your superpower? I usually, one of the things that always occurred to me is, tenacity. And I don't know if that's a South African thing. And I know you and I have had this conversation, but there's just something about being tenacious and having a kind of mindset that kind of goes, oh, well, okay, that didn't work. Let's do something that works, and let's try this. It really lends itself to being able to build that business and being able to be successful in it. And even, with the Lunchtime series, it's come about with COVID. And you kind of go, suddenly COVID forced you into this kind of space where I'm kind of speaking to people like you across the world. And I think that's part of, there's a very special something that sort of, I'm sure, you could relate to what South Africa is sort of about, and how we implement and share and do and cultivate and create, like you're saying. But it is definitely one of the most amazing things. I've had the wonderful advantage of having grown up in South Africa long enough, as an adult to experience everything. I've also had the experience of Europe. And then I've also, been here for a good 14 years. So I've had this really weird sort of bridge of seeing how things happen. And there are amazing innovators all over the world. One thing I would say about South Africans that is super unique, I don't even know if they even know how unbelievable they are. It doesn't matter what you do or give a South African. They will find something to do with it. They will find a way around the problem. We have experienced, and not to say other people don't experience massive problems, but we've experienced an enormous amount of roadblocks growing up, throughout our childhoods, throughout our adulthoods, government problems, political issues, even up till today. There's load shedding in South Africa, which is difficult to explain to business people here, because they're like, well, are people doing business there? I'm like, yeah, obviously. And yet still we're struggling with third world sort of load shedding, right? So it's like, we make it happen. We spoke about it the other day where you were running out, going to find somewhere where there was Wi-Fi. You weren't just going to fold your day because it didn't exist, right? And it's amazing, and it's not just a South African thing, but I think we've just had a real good practice at it. I was watching I don't know if you've seen the meme, but there's a couple of young African boys that they have nothing to do, so they take mud and they build a pool table, balls and sticks and all. And obviously it's not to scope, but just the ingenuity of it, the space that is created of, okay, what can I create now to overcome this? What I hear a lot of people who live reactively or have a more reactive approach to their business, I hear them often
with the words, the problem is, instead of
Yeah.
the solution is, or how do we get around this problem? Also using other people. Other people we can't do it alone. Other people are so important to bounce ideas off, to, celebrate wins with, and also to get advice when we mess it up a little bit. But we keep going, and perseverance is something that I've seen with and tenacity. Absolutely. I find South Africans to be extremely tenacious people, and I really feel like they could share a lot of that with the rest of the world.
Yeah. So in terms of COVID, it's not a conversation I like having because so many people are having it. But, in terms of how business is being affected in the US compared to South Africa is, we've experienced great loss in unemployment. It's quite been detrimental, almost debilitating to this country. Are you guys experiencing something similar? Is it such a big deal, like in terms of lockdown, and how is business, for you guys considering lockdown or COVID at least?
Yeah, I mean, this has been an incredibly strange time for everyone in the whole world, and it's been very interesting to see how different places react. And it's very difficult to draw a comparison from South Africa specifically to the whole of the US. The USA is so big that it really functions as a breakdown in states. And every state, the way that it's sort of set up is every state manages itself until the federal government has to sort of step in. Yeah. So it's been sort of from state to state, it's been very different. That's been something that has affected American people a lot, I believe. COVID in general has really affected people's mental states, obviously their physical states, their work states, monetary, financial, everything. So here in Florida, it's a sunny state. I think that makes a difference, especially since we are in summer now. So, the sun shines a lot. But a lot of, I would say that, we've all experienced an incredible amount of difficulties on personal levels. A lot of people, it just came out of the blue. We are kind of used to the calm before the storm moments when the hurricanes come, prep time. Yeah. But this was just a little bit out of everybody's reach. This was a little different. My business, however, and I will say small business, and my business is really a micro business as far as businesses go in America and in the world. But what I would say is, if your business had a great deal of integrity and your business was well put together, that means from your bank accounts right through to setting up your business, etc., and your taxes were paid, etc., then there was relief. And I wouldn't say there was relief for everybody, because it also depended on the relationships you had with your bank. So what really happened here for us was things became very under the microscope. Your business went under a microscope. You could only get business loans. Business loans are incredibly difficult, especially for small business here in America, especially here in Florida. But, there was relief available, but your business had to be impeccably put together. And there was funding available, provided you had great relationships with banks. So everybody's inner workings went under the microscope. If you weren't well put together, you didn't get the help. If you were, you did. And then some people just didn't either, for whatever, whether it was a systemic breakdown. There were a lot of systemic breakdowns. People think that America is very well put together, and it is. But there's a lot of people, a lot of systems, and a lot of breakdown. Also, we weren't prepared for COVID. So none of the systems were prepared for COVID. The short of it is we all had to get our goodies together, make sure our businesses were up and running impeccably. If they weren't, we had to really get ahead of ourselves. We used the downtime to really do that, to make business function really, really well, smoothly, and with ease. So there's been a massive impact. I mean, lots of businesses closing, lots of certain types of businesses in the, of course, in certain industries, restaurant industries, tourism industries, big tourism here in South Florida. But then there was a big impact in a very good way on other businesses, such as anything leisure and outdoor. Homes are suddenly again for sale, you know, RVs were for sale in record amounts. I couldn't even buy a bicycle. So people were really, bicycles are on back order till October if you want a relatively nice bicycle. But, you know, it definitely affected people. There were certainly a lot of negatives, but depending on how you took it, you could turn it around and you could have made a lot of positives. You know, it really depended. Some businesses heavily affected, some were saved. So I would say it's coming back together now. You know, Floridians are out and about. You know,
call them Floridians?
Floridians, yeah. Everyone here in lovely Florida. Yeah, it's funny.
Floridians. So, you know, in terms of, I mean, one of the conversations we've had and one of the considerations on having these conversations is also, you know, taking your brand international. Tell me more about that, because, you know, we both know that, you know, we both want to do that more internationally and have more international conversations, but also, you know, and build a bit of brand awareness and marketing. Tell us more about what your sort of goal is with that and how you're taking your brand to the next level.
So thank you for that question, because it's something that
no pressure.
I've been pondering it for a long time. You know, I've always been into charity work. I've always been extremely passionate about children, young people, and really what that has translated into now in the work and what I see a need for in my own personal service to the world is helping people empower themselves in their work. Because what I'm starting to realize is work and home are starting to become synonymous. Your passion, a lot of people's passions are literally becoming their work now. Here in America, that's becoming extremely evident. People now had the opportunity to go and find their passion or actually put some money into their passion and do something, you know, whether it was opening a boutique or coaching or healthy lifestyle or holistic living or pets, you know, veterinarians, whatever it was, people are now able to go, okay, I actually want to do this. And I think that is really powerful, because when you are actually doing what you love, you make the most impact on the world. It doesn't matter what your vehicle is, whether it's photography, whether it's this or that or that or that. You essentially have been called to do what you are passionate about. That's why you're passionate about it. Otherwise, you know, why do it? In this day and age, anyway. Every age has its place, I guess. But I want to take my brand international, and I really want to start with South Africa, and I think I can make a huge difference there. We do a lot of commercial work with businesses and entrepreneurs and product and service, and we really want to come in, help people find their authentic voice and put that into a creative process. So you come out at the end of the day with a beautiful online or stunning gallery of stunning, consistent imagery that speaks to what you do and the difference you make in the world. You know, we've managed to define the brand experience so that it's a wonderful experience. We also, you know, our shoots are great experiences. We don't want our sessions to be boring, difficult, you know, unhappy. We always come with great energy, and we are very, very organized, extremely intuitive. We find your business goals. We find what you're looking for. And I think my passion with South Africa essentially drives that. I think any of my family and friends can tell you that I am extremely, very passionate about South Africa. I am very passionate about America too. And bringing these two things together has been simply a dream come true for me. And I look forward to working with business people in South Africa and seeing what we can do and bringing them a product that will unveil amazing things for them.
Yeah, I think in doing the lunchtime segments in the last couple of months now, it really becomes synonymous to what your brand's conversation is, and whether that is on a platform like this, or visually driven, or there has to be some kind of creative process behind it. And I think it's so important for people to, specifically brands, and specifically like you're saying, where people are actually finding their passions and wanting to showcase that. And a lot of people, they just don't know how to connect those dots. So from a creative brain, you kind of go, well, tell me. And that's why you get paid the big bucks, right? to make those connections and help people speak that messaging and relay that the way that they actually want to command their brand.
Yeah, branding is not a frivolous process at all. Some people would like to think that, show up, we've got a pretty place and just shoot. But there's quite a process to it that would work well in the journalism world, that does not work well when putting your own brand together. Even though your brand is authentic and you, it requires such respect putting it together. And it's a really fun, really explorative process. So what I'd say is we take you from A to Z with ease. We don't make you overthink anything. There's a lot going on, even though it doesn't feel like it. So it feels very easy, but there's an incredible amount of detail that goes on. We sit with our clients, we find out, what are their goals? Who are they? What do they like? We find out a range, personal and non-personal, business-related, non-business related. We want to actually feel your brand. And that's when we start getting into all the branding. We start going to your branding voice, your palettes, who's your audience, what makes you authentic. We used to put brands together that looked good. And that is still something that's very important. The difference we're making here is we're being more authentic. How do I take you, Kev, or any business person out there, and how do I put forward who you're trying to reach? Because if I can help you reach your client, then I've won. Because that's my point. That's my charity. That's my difference. That's my passion in life, is to say, okay, let's find who you want to reach in the simplest, easiest, most efficient way possible. And doing that through branding is incredible. Nowadays, especially now during COVID and people realizing, things can be done from computer, through video. There is a lot of competition, an incredible amount of competition. People also don't know what other people do. So sure, you could tell me you're a business coach, but unless I am sort of familiar with that, I'm going to have no idea what that really means. So how do we tell your audience what that really means visually, while making sure they understand who you are? People will latch onto you because they know, okay, there he is. That's what I needed. That's what I wanted. I like that feeling. That relates to me. That's really what people need. They actually need you to put out this information so they can find you in the masses that exist. There's so much information. And looking for information can be overwhelming for any user on the planet. How do they find you? Where do they find you? And what are they looking at when they find you?
Do you know, I think I was checking some of the notes that you have on your website, and you mentioned bringing your interior or exterior space to life by capturing its essence and all the individual pieces that beautifully come together. And I think, from a brand, from photography perspective, from having a look at a picture, you're kind of going, that's the point. If it's not actually capturing the essence of it, why are you taking the picture? Exactly. Especially when it comes to your brand, how does it speak? But Lauren, so, just off the cuff, what motivates you every day? You know, as a creative, as this passionate person running their business in Florida, like what gets you up in the day and goes, yeah, that's why I do this.
That is a very interesting story, and my journey here in America has been very interesting, which brings me to the answer of that, because I have kind of undergone a great deal of life changes. I'm still who I always was. You know, a little rebellious and fun, and I'm a bit goofy, and I can be very serious at the same time, depending on what we need. But what I'd say is the personal changes that my life has undergone has really shown me, you know, not to sound strange, but that I'm here for a reason. I'm not a frivolous process, and nor is any human that exists. What we're trying to do is find our purpose. What happened was I became very ill with a chronic illness that nobody could figure out. It took me a good 4, 5, 6 years to really see myself through that process, which, you know, was quite difficult. And I think it was in that process of healing my body, I started to heal so many other things. I started to heal my mind. I started to heal. And what happened was I started to find incredible amounts of joy just in daily things, like flowers, like my beautiful flowers here. I always have flowers around. Watching a flower bloom, and the pure miracle in that started making me realize, wow, hold on. I have more control here over my life and my energy than I really understood before. And so what I do is I become very proactive. I do a lot of self-motivating things, you know, whatever that is. People do a whole bunch of different things. You know, some people go to therapy, some people wake up and do yoga. I do have a very committed meditation practice that I use. It's part of who I am. I feel like I'm always connected to my source and my creator. And I just, you know, I'm blessed. I wake up, I take the highs, I say thank you. I take the lows, I say thank you. What do I do next? So I don't rely on purely my own self to make it happen. I rely on definitely a great deal of intuition and connection that is nurtured every single day of my life. For me, it's you know, getting up, meditating, having my morning routine, which I would recommend to any human on the planet. Having your morning routine that eases you into your day is a wonderful thing. Waking up and rushing off your feet and just kind of having to move at a pace really fast, you know, there are ways to prevent having to have crazy mornings like that. That helps a great deal. So I think just really the bottom line is just paying attention to myself. We have spent an incredible amount of time paying attention to other people, which we still need to do as well. But we really need to turn and look at ourselves. That is an okay thing to do. Some people won't like it. But when you start looking at yourself and just nurturing yourself and saying, listen, you're okay, you're here. The fact that you're here is an absolute miracle to begin with. The fact that, you know, you have an illness and you're still here. The fact that we have anything is something to be grateful for. And I find that the more gratefulness I have, the more comes my way. A lot of things still come my way. I have a lot of difficult things that I have to deal with, but I do it with ease and with grace most of the time. And if I don't, I try to go back and redo and try again. One of the things that, one of the sayings that a beautiful, wonderful friend of mine, Leanne Summers, said to me once was, free will never negates free will. So if you made a bad choice yesterday, you can redo it. How amazing. You can redo it 3 seconds afterwards. You don't even have to wait. So I wake up every day. I'm really driven by passion. I really love what I do. That is really the battery that drives it. Sometimes I get, you know, a little bit like, oh, you know, I need a little inspiration. I've been working a lot, and the creative juices are just kind of getting dry. And I'm like, okay, what can I go do? And I'll grab my camera and I'll go outside and photograph, you know, not working. So I go to work every day, but I'm not actually working. I'm enjoying my life, and I'm putting out fires as I go, and seeing how I can do things better. That is definitely one of the things that I've done a lot of, is revising. There's a book I've read, The 4 Agreements, very simple, easy to read book. And it talks about 4 things that you can do in your life that will profoundly change every single day for you. And one of them is to not take things personally. And this is a journey, something that we try to do, and you know, over our lifetimes. But those types of things, if you can sort of stick to them, really think about them, they push you forward in your business, and they pull you into the right people. One of the things I have stopped doing is networking. And I haven't stopped networking completely. I've just decided, you know, there was a time where I used to network everywhere, which I guess was good for the times. But I was having fun, but it wasn't really doing much for my business. So I stopped and I started paying attention. Like, where do I really want to find my clients? Started looking at these types of things. So I just revise my habits every few months. I don't take anything personally, even if I don't like it. I try to hear what other people are saying. I try to get their feedback, because they can see things I can't. And I just, you know, I have bad days. There are days I get up and I don't want to move. I can't see myself functioning today. And again, go back to the basics. Go back to my meditation. Even if I just sit for 5 minutes, you know, it doesn't have to be 3 hours of guru meditation, just quietening and persevering, making sure you are tenacious. Get up and do it again. Why not? You know, what else are you going to do? If it's not working,
you know,
stop. If you need to find a solution, find it. There's so many solutions on this planet that we don't even know about. So there's an answer for pretty much everything.
Yeah, you know, I think recently I was, you know, just to share with everything you're saying is, I've recently had a conversation with also another coach who's chatting about creativity and the importance of creative thinking. And one of the steps in the process is really imagining what could possibly be. And I think that's, you know, very often people get stuck with the detail, and they kind of get bogged down, because that way I don't have to take action. You know, if I just have to plan everything to death. And yes, planning is wonderful. Planning is good, but in you know, reaching for the imagination, reaching for what potentially could be. You know, I think that is so important, because like you just said, you don't know what could happen. You don't know what could come of this. You don't know. You don't necessarily have to have the reference. You just have to action something. So the fact that you get up and go and take some photographs, and you're going to like, oh wow, that's, you know, I've never seen it, or I've never seen that in that perspective. And you know, and that's the beauty of having a creative mind, I suppose, and really just living and acknowledging a little bit of what potentially could be, other than what I'm aware of, you know. And I think, you know, business owners desperately need that, and considering COVID and having people needing to come up with solutions now, like, we kind of need to live in a space where it's more like, we don't really have the answers, but you start, you know, you fail fast and you fail forward. It's my newest, best saying.
Kev, that is such a good point you make, because, you know, Einstein said it best: imagination is more important than knowledge. And you know, there's rumors, or maybe there's even proof, I don't know, that he came up with all of his theories simply by imagining what would happen or could happen or is going to happen. And this is something that is incredibly powerful. And what it requires is a shift from the reactive to the proactive. And also what it really requires is letting go of all understanding, which is pretty difficult for most humans. It is difficult to always try to see what's going on around you. There's so much information. Life can get so overwhelming. We're so busy and getting busier. You know, how do we do all of that? One of the ways to do that, and this is so powerful, and it's so simple, and it's right there at our fingertips, and it's free, is you sit for 5 minutes and just sit and quiet your mind. And you are allowing a platform for things just to come into your mind, and then you just pay attention. You're like, oh, I like that one. Oh, no, I don't like that one. Oh, this is good. Oh, no, I don't like that idea. It's up to you. You wield your own energy. You know, you're the wizard of your life. So you can, this is a part where people can make fundamental differences to their businesses right now, in COVID, in any situation. You know, get with your business, get with your goals. Ask yourself, what are my goals? Not what have I done? What can I already see? What do I want to see? Be ferocious enough and brave enough, courageous enough to actually say, I want to make $1 million. What's so wrong about saying that, even if you never achieve that? Hell, you might make, you know, you might make 750, you might make 5 million. You know, and there's, we know there's parts of our brains, you know, we know what we know. We know that we know what we know. We know what we don't know. Like if, you know, I don't speak German, but I know that. And if I needed to, I could speak German. But of course, what about all the things that we don't know, that we don't even know, that we don't know? You know, there's space for us to just allow it to actually enter the mind. Do you ever had that moment where you're sitting and you're like, oh, I don't know, thinking about something, and boom, something pops in your head? Do you think did it come from you, or did it come from the, you know, somewhere else? In essence, it doesn't really matter. The point is it's there. And it's information for you to jot down and use to your heart's content. So critical thinking is something that I believe all humans possess. Every human is creative. We are a creation, a very, very interesting creation above all creations. But, you know, for some reason over the years, you know, whether it's, you know, societal, you know, ideas being drummed into our heads, or being, you know, certain fundamental values being taught in families or cultures or whatever it is, we've kind of lost, or at least forgotten, or aren't using as much critical thinking as we used to, as naturally occurring. So it is something to be practiced. Like anything, it's already there. You just have to practice it. One of the best ways to practice this, write something down that you want to actually show up in your life. Something simple, and test it for yourself. Keeping in mind that, you know, people need to be okay with saying things like, I'm going to succeed. Why not? I was born to succeed. It is my birthright to succeed. It is everybody's birthright to succeed. We just have to find the way to do that. And, you know, we've kind of lost our way a little bit, but here we are on the great adventure of finding our way back to it. And a magnificent way of manifesting, for sure. Very important.
So, you know, and I think you're also touching on some of the conversations we're going to be having in Candid Conversations with my cousin. You know, so from my, you know, when we decided to have this conversation, I think it's a nice topic to sort of raise with people. From my side, you know, I like asking the question about businesses, entrepreneurs, and interesting topics. And, you know, what is it that you're going to be sharing, and what can people sort of look forward to when we have these conversations? What are some of those things that you want to be touching on in these candid conversations? Because we are alluding to some of it today as well. But share from your perspective what people can expect to take from this.
So as we've been going on, and COVID has occurred, and there's a lot more time for thinking and just sort of sitting, and I was kind of mulling around my head that your platform and different platforms that I watch and I'm always interested in. And one of the things that came up for me, I've been here 14 years in America. I'm still very much South African, except for a little tweak on the accent there. But I've become sort of passionate about finding a way to mix these two worlds, because I think there's a lot of ways that they can benefit from each other. And some of the ways are, everything will relate to your life. Everything will relate to your business, your work, your family, your friends. But what I'm finding is, the way, whether we're talking about COVID or Black Lives Matter or the economy or Wi-Fi internet or how to deal with difficult customers, or it doesn't really matter the context that we're speaking about, there's a really different way of doing it in different places. And because I'm South African and I live in America and I'm a businesswoman here, I've noticed that there's a lot of things that I feel South Africans, if we talk about it enough, can help the Americans with. And the opposite. There's a lot of things that my American counterparts and friends here and colleagues can talk about and help South Africa, especially when it comes to things like business and economy, your economy. There's not much we're going to be able to do about, the actual government, but you're an economy nevertheless, and you have to work with what you've got. So in doing that, we do things differently. I know that we take the hashtags and we share them according to our own cultures, and we think it's the same in other places, and it can be similar, but there are very different ways of doing things. Also, our cultures are so fundamentally different, and the way we go about doing things so fundamentally different. I just think that merging these two worlds, having some really awesome, candid conversations, are going to bring about many questions, many things that people are perhaps too afraid to bring up, and we're gonna talk about some interesting stuff. And I think Americans and other people in the world are very curious about what's happening in South Africa. They love seeing upcoming music and movies and businesses, and how is business coaches want to connect and people want to connect. So one of the things I'll also be doing is introducing some people from across the pond. So we're going to have this cultural conversation and, share our wins and our losses and make a difference. That's the point. We want to make a difference in your business, and that doesn't have to take 5-6 years. That happens right now. Take what we have, share it, and also learn a lot from what people have to say.
Exactly, and that's exactly what the aim is about the Lunchtime Stories is to share a story and to share and get some insight from how people do what people do. And I've recently chatted to a coach who actually works in culture and culture diversity, and one of the things she mentioned was the importance of sharing stories and what we can actually learn from each other. So definitely looking forward to the Lunchtime Stories every Friday. It's going to happen every Friday. Lauren, if we want to get hold of you and we want to sort of see, because I was just looking at some of the photography on your website, and I have reference to stock footage, and those the pexels.com. And no, they haven't paid me to say that, but
I love Pixel.
but it's amazing. And I look at your website, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like people could actually just email you and say, Lauren, I need this, I need this for my for my website. The photography is amazing. So guys, if you want to go and check that out, it's laurenbritzphotography.com. And Lauren, your Instagram, what is your best Instagram to follow, and social media handles? Share that with us.
Definitely. So the website's a good resource, laurenbritzphotography.com, like you said. And then, of course, my business Instagram is Lauren Britz Photo. And of course, also on Facebook. And LinkedIn, Lauren Britz, if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn. It might seem like we're far away and there's a big border between us, especially since we can't cross it at the moment.
Yeah.
But we are going to be able to cross them soon. And, all it starts with is a conversation. There are no expectations. It's a conversation. Do we work together well? Can I sort of put together what you're looking for? Doesn't matter where in the world you are, content can be created. I also travel, so that's wonderful. And I look forward to talking to anyone who wants to set up a call like we're doing, and just chat, chat about what's possible. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm very excited about our candid conversations with my cousin.
Fantastic, Lauren. So thank you for joining me. And guys, this is lunchtime. The lunchtime stories will be going out on ebusradio.com every day at 12 o'clock South African time, that is. But you can check it out on their website. Just check out ebusradio.com. They have a whole bunch of podcasts that you can also download. And Lauren, I will see you next week. This is exciting stuff.
Thank you very much, Kev. Goodbye, tot ziens. And I will see you later.
Chat to you later.
Have a great day.
Cheers. You too. Bye.